I signed up for one of the hardest mountain races in North America. But there was one problem.
Yeah, it's like I've got trench foot.
All of my training was done in this gym. Using a treadmill and an old Soviet textbook called Super Training, I hoped to cross the finish line feeling strong. And I didn't sign up for an ordinary trail race either. This was called a skyrunning race. Competitors race to climb up and over multiple mountains, along steep exposed ridges. Oh, and there's no cell phone service. And in case that didn't sound like a bad enough idea, I didn't just do all my training inside. The poles I got, I'd never used before. I wasn't gonna bring a trail running vest. I was gonna wear cotton, and the fuel I was bringing, I had never actually used before. This might be a terrible idea. The plan I had in place was to spend months building an aerobic engine with flat running on a treadmill, staying in zone 2. And once that base was built, my secret weapon would come out. An 8-week special training block that mimics the mountains in the gym. So what is this special training block? I'll keep it brief as that's a topic for another video. The specificity of mountain training in the gym was going to come from a concept from Yuri Verkhoshansky, a Soviet sports scientist who wrote a secret textbook in the 70s. He wrote that if endurance is expressed as a percentage of maximal strength, then if we raise our maximal strength, the energy cost of endurance gets cheaper. The second pillar that Yuri coined was special strength or strength endurance. The idea that we need to exceed the demands of the sport in the gym. So whatever the mountains were going to throw at me, I need to make that harder in the gym. This was going to be my secret weapon.
Just before we got to the race, we passed by Frank's Slide, a massive rock slide that buried the town in 1903. The rubble is still on the side of the road and the entire town is still buried underneath. It just goes to show how loose the Rockies really is, and we were going to be reminded of this during the race.
Maybe not know how to carry this jacket. It's what I'm bringing to the race.
This is what I'm bringing to the race.
I've got poles. What else do I put in there? Emergency blanket, a jacket, 2 650ml of water with 60 grams of carb, and then another 120 grams of carb, and then 2 PF90 gels. And I'm gonna put 4 exact bars in my pocket.
Really wanted to stay with the essence of training indoors. So my fiance, Michaela, she went out for a 20-minute shakeout run, and I jumped around in the hotel room doing a modified version of the muscle endurance workouts that I'd been doing. One of the exercises is called step-ups. Pretty simple, you step up on a box. All I had available to me was a wobbly chair. Once I pulled out my shoes, which were the only thing that I had actually worn before, I realized they had a hole in them. So
the same mistake.
I needed to get some super glue and glue them back together. The next morning, with my shoes glued back together, we get to the start line, gun goes off, everybody runs. First 2K is flat. Then you have 3 mountains that you've got to climb, and then another 3, 4K to the finish line. We get to the first climb. I was holding myself back. First climb goes well, first descent goes well, start overtaking some people. The second climb is where the race gets pretty cool. You start running along these exposed ridges, scrambly terrain. It really feels like you're in the remote wilderness. If you needed to get rescued up there, you'd be looking at a helicopter. And if the weather's bad, they're gonna wait until the next day. The second descent gets interesting. It's actually called the Shoe Shredder. It's an 800-ish meter scree slope that you have to run down. And if you're not sure what a scree slope is, it's a bunch of little rocks that act like sand, so you can run down. The problem with this scree slope is they're not little rocks. They're small rocks and medium rocks and massive microwave-sized boulders. And there's a real risk of some of those boulders coming down and hitting you. That's why part of the optional gear is a helmet, which I didn't bring. So I raced down, scammer, not answering that. So I raced down the scree slope and man, my legs were feeling awesome. I was still passing people. We get to the second aid station, and that's where we come to the third climb. And I remember from 2023, that third climb is just brutal. The terrain just gets steeper and steeper and steeper. And when you think you can't get any steeper, you start having to put your hands on the rock and physically climb to get to the top. And I just kept looking at the top of that peak and thinking, once I'm there, I can let everything I've got out and just race to the end of the finish. What I thought was the top was a false summit. And the real top was a descent and then another, I don't know, 300-meter climb. And then finally, I'm allowed to just let loose and run to the finish. And that's when I realized I had a bit of a problem. My toe. So I had run through some puddles at the beginning of the race, and what had happened was my foot got wet and my shoe got wet. That now what was happening after 7.5 hours on the trail was my foot was jamming in front of the shoe. I didn't want to look at my foot. I just thought, just shut up and run. So I did, and that didn't work. It was just way too painful. My goal was to beat my 2023 time of 8 hours and 35 minutes. And I knew I needed to get to the finish line from that third aid station in 45 minutes or less.
Last few kilometers, I'm on the road, finally on the road. I've got 2 or 3 kilometers left.
So how did it all go? How did the race go?
I feel like my feet are not in good shape.
Wait.
Oh, can you smell that from?
Ew. Oh, you're
Which-
gonna lose that toenail.
The big one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Is that
like
the one that was bugging you?
Yeah, it's like I've got trench foot.
Okay.
So, what do you think about your feet then?
I think they smell terrible.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
I knew that the strategies I had in place, proper pacing, proper fueling, the reason I was wearing a running belt instead of a vest, by the way, is because it would be lighter. Last time I did the race, I had a massive 4-liter bladder on my back that I didn't even need. And the problem with the bladder is you can't tell when you're running out of water. So I wanted to be strategic and methodical. I wanted to know what I was consuming and how much. I wanted to have a plan and I wanted to stick to it. And that's what I did. So the belt was for that. The reason that I hadn't used poles in my training was I wanted to condition my legs and get them stronger. And I wanted to get them used to hiking up and down without poles. So that when I got to the race, I would have poles and it would feel, subjectively maybe, a lot easier. Because yes, I did all my training on the treadmill, but I did 3 outdoor days. So I calculated it, I did 96% of my training indoors, and I did, it was around 1,100 meters of distance indoors on a treadmill, excluding all the strength work. And then I did 46 kilometers over 3 runs outdoors. And that's where I didn't use poles deliberately. I wanted to condition my legs. I wanted to get them used to running without poles so that on the race, they would feel awesome. And they did feel awesome. So everything that looked on paper like it was gonna work against me, I had a plan of how that was actually gonna work for me. So carrying limited water, I wanted the least amount of water that I needed. I wasn't deliberately trying to bring less water. I was deliberately trying to bring what I needed and no more. I didn't want any extra weight. The next day, I actually wasn't that sore, except for my toe. I thought I would feel way worse. I mean, I was hobbling around, but that was, again, because of the toe. So now all I need to do is get my toe to recover, and and we'll be golden. And I'm thinking about the next video. I've got a few topics in mind. 3 topics that I will do a video about at some point. I just do not know which one. One idea is to go into depth on muscle endurance and how to actually train for a race when you don't have mountains, how to train for a mountain race without mountains, and actually dig into the protocol and what muscular endurance is and how to implement it in the gym and how to use it effectively. The second one is about shin splints, which I have a long history of shin splints. And I've now been 8 months of running the most I've ever ran in my entire life with no shin splints. That's idea number 2. The third one is controversial. That's about it. And if you want to see my toe,